Hello everyone, welcome to URBONUS podcast. I'm the host Donatas Urbonas and I'm joined by my colleague Rytis Vyšniauskas. Without any further introduction, Rytis, tell me what the hell is going on in Palau Blaugrana, what they are smoking, because the last time we had the shush, now we have King Ataman chanting I won the cup in front of all crowd and not leaving the court for 3 minutes. I know that in Panathinaikos, in Oaxaca, some players told that sometimes they can smell something special, something different, some different flavor. But I didn't hear anything like that in Palau, about Palau Blaugrana.
Well, Barcelona people are usually very liberal about smoking things, so I wouldn't be surprised if somebody is smoking something there. But from what we can see, the crowd in Palau, they really respect the rules. They're always wearing their masks, so I don't think it has anything to do with smoking. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that they are the leading team in the EuroLeague standings and everybody wants to beat them. And maybe that Anadolu, Efes and Barca played in the EuroLeague final last season. And maybe that in Istanbul, Ataman was also ejected from the game and actually was a crazy overtime game, after which Anadolu Efes came out with an official announcement that they were disappointed with the quality of the refereeing. So the tensions were high already before the game. So it's not something very miraculous that, emotions were all over the place. But
you understood, sorry for interrupting you, we will talk about two big games from the last week, and both were played in Barcelona, Barca Efes and Barca Armani Exchange. Also, we will discuss shortly Real Madrid and their recent transfer moves. And for the second part of the podcast, since we have a midway of the EuroCup regular season, we will talk about some EuroCup action and Partizan Belgrade specifically. Yeah. We have few questions from our listener Miroslav. We will dedicate all our fan mail for his 3 questions. And finally, it seems like we will have all the games played as scheduled this week. So we will have a short talk about the most upcoming, the biggest games this week. So first of all, as you understood, we will talk about Ergin Ataman, and it was again the highlight of Barca and Efes game. Was it fair to throw him out of the court once again in the beginning of the third quarter?
I don't know. It is not for me to judge. I really have no idea what he said to the referee. I don't know what words were thrown at the referees. There was this first technical foul. Usually, coaches, they know what they're doing when they're getting a technical foul. Usually, the coach realizes that right now I'm going to get the technical, but it's not a big deal. In this case, I don't know, man. It's the third time Ergin Ataman is ejected from a EuroLeague game this season. Twice it happened against Barcelona. Once it happened in Athens when they played against Panathinaikos.
And I think at all 3 times it was 2 consecutive technicals, right?
Yes. And, well, to me, it does not say much about the referees, whether it was fair or not. I don't know. I have no idea. It's not for me to judge. But it says more about Ergin Ataman to me, actually, to be honest. Of course, the showmanship with this I won the cup and everything was entertaining. However, when I see a coach that cannot control himself, do I trust him to control a group of individuals? Anadolu Efes is struggling this season. Yeah, they're not where they're supposed to be as EuroLeague champions with this roster. And Ergin Ataman is constantly losing his temper. 3 ejections, practices during Christmas time. I don't know. Maybe it's the old Ataman, not the new one we got used to in recent years when Anadolu Efes were winning everything. So really, you can have an opinion whether it was fair or not to eject him from this game, but I just see a man that's not controlling his emotions.
Yeah, that says a lot about...
He's losing it, so how can he control the team?
That says a lot about current Efes situation. It seems like he's losing the control of the team, but at the same time, probably you can trust the guy. I mean, he coached this team for a few years successfully. I mean, he won the EuroLeague with this group of guys. They were dominating in the EuroLeague past couple of years. But the fact that he's losing control right now, it shows that something is wrong inside the team as well. And also, the third ejection in one season, in actually 3 months, says a lot about his assistant coaches, and that Ataman needs some protection, like Šarūnas Jasikevičius has on his bench. Darius Maskoliūnas, well-known bodyguard, not just a assistant coach, but also he's paid as a bodyguard for Šaras. And Jakub Sekiskok, it seems like he's a very good guy, a very nice, very polite guy, but they need some bodies on the bench to control Ataman if he cannot control himself. Although, yeah, the problem was that we didn't have a clear replay. For example, in the previous game, Efes Barca, we kind of saw what happened, and we discussed that it was not that fair to throw out the coach in that kind of situation under these circumstances. Right now, from what I saw, I wouldn't throw him out unless something between all these replays, what we didn't see, happen. Although I would be really surprised if something was extraordinary, because we kind of saw the end of Ataman rant and the very, very, very beginning later in the game, because it was after 3 quarters that when they showed the replay of like first reactions of Ataman after Dunstan's foul. And it didn't look like, sometimes coaches just start running on the court and complaining about everything. It didn't look that bad. So I think that Ataman was surprised by himself also that he was thrown out, because I'm not so sure. I just saw coach asking why.
But you don't know the language. You don't know the language, what he said.
Yeah.
What he said to the referee. I mean, you can say a lot of nasty things, and the referee has the right to give you a technical foul. And if after that you're still saying stuff, you can definitely get the second consecutive technical.
But for example, if you're asking all the time why in a kind of emotional manner, is it worth the ejection?
Well, no, but I mean, how do we know if that's all he said?
Yeah, I understand your point, but we don't know if he said anything. Because we have some reasons to be unsure, because in the previous game, it was not forfeit. I mean, to throw out him off the court.
Well, I think that the truth is somewhere in between, because one thing is, of course, that now Ataman has this reputation. So for the referees, it's easier to eject him than any other coach, because, you understand that this is Ergin Ataman. He loses his temper. It happened already 3 times this season. So it's kind of easier to give these 2 technicals to him, because you're kind of prepared mentally before the game, if you're the ref, that Ataman will be there mentally attacking you with his remarks and everything else. At the same time, another thing is that there's a very popular narrative, and it's a very easy position to take, even for me, to be safe, to not be criticized, to talk about bad refereeing, and usually to talk about how the refs are favoring the Spanish clubs, Real Madrid and Barcelona. This is the narrative. This is what everyone's talking about. In Turkey, in Greece, everyone's talking. It's Jordi Bartomeu's Liga, it's Barcelona and Real Madrid.
Mafia and
yeah.
etc.
Listen, in this game, Vasa Micic got 15 free throws. Anadolu Efes had 33 free throws. I don't see how you can cry about refereeing and say that refs were...
But we're not crying about refereeing in general.
So we're not
crying about the specific situation at the beginning of the third quarter.
But I'm talking about the build-up to this whole situation. Why Ataman is frustrated, why he gets 2 technicals, why he attacks the referee in the middle of the third quarter. Because if he himself believes that the refs are unfair always in favor of Barcelona when they're playing against them, this is what you get. In my opinion, I mean, the mistakes were made, mistakes are made in almost every game. It's not for me to judge the quality of the referees. I'm not an expert in refereeing, but I don't see any unfair referees' decisions in these games. Barcelona and Anadolu Efes.
No. I didn't either. So, but my only
Ergin
concern is
Ataman,
that if you can throw out the coach out of the game, the beginning of the third quarter, for that what we saw, I mean, I saw way bigger things before and coaches were not ejected, for example. So maybe it's also because of Ataman's history. Maybe he has a very bad reputation among the referees because maybe before, during the games, during the season, he was saying something, he was doing something very unprofessional. Maybe it's because of that. I don't know. But I just saw bigger things. And coaches weren't thrown out.
I don't know.
I mean, Sharas, you can take Sharas. A lot of situations where he wasn't thrown out of the game. Although sometimes he's even more emotional.
But it's not only about emotions, it's about the language. You can be emotional with the referees. They know it. They tolerate it to some degree. But it's about the language. If you're offending people, if you're abusing people, you're getting technical fouls. I mean, in my opinion, Mr. Ataman should get a grip. I genuinely don't believe that the referee goes into the game thinking that I'm about to punish this coach. He's going to get ejected if he says anything. I genuinely don't believe that the refs before the game have this mindset that we need to punish Ataman because we don't like him. He needs to control himself. That's it. Simple. Stay in the game. You're letting your team down. We're always trying to be like very smart when we talk about coaches getting the technical fouls. Maybe it was a very tactical decision. He wanted his team to respond. He wanted to show his players that he's standing up for them. Sometimes, yes, not in Ataman's case. He's not getting two technicals because he wants to shake up his team. He's getting two technicals because he's losing control. You saw the reactions on Anadolu Efes bench when he was doing this circus? Zero emotions. No one's reacting. Anderson, Petrushev, whatever. Take all the players. They were just sitting there with poker faces.
It's not the first time when we see all these poker faces. For example, Efes is one of these rare EuroLeague teams that, which after the timeout, usually all the teams are, giving some bumps or like doing some chants for the team, like let's go Žalgiris or whatever. These guys, I mean, after the timeout, they just go separate ways, like nothing happened. It's okay. It doesn't say something that there's something wrong with that team. It's just the mentality is different in every team, team by team. But this team is just like that. I mean, they are kind of emotionless, and maybe it was also part of that.
I don't know, man. It just that whole situation looked silly to me, to be honest. And
especially afterwards. I mean, what happened after that? 3 minutes. He couldn't leave the floor for 3 minutes. It was funny to watch. It was silly to watch. He sit down on the bench like a small crying child. It seemed like he was like, no, I'm not going anywhere. But it was entertaining. It was what only Ataman could do.
And all this, I won the cup. I mean, yes, you're right. It's entertaining. It's kind of funny. But if I was part of Anadolu Efes team, doesn't matter, coaching staff or one of the players, I would honestly be embarrassed.
But that's what you take. But that's what you deal with when you have Coach Ataman. I mean, he did a lot of unprofessional things before.
Maybe so.
Nothing extraordinary from Ataman's case.
Yeah, but talking about the game now, maybe a little bit. Definitely Anadolu Efes suffered because they just couldn't make shots. They were creating pretty good opportunities, but the jump shots were not falling. Only 5 from 26 3-pointers. There were some good things done by Barcelona on defense. They knew where they can risk, and they knew what they cannot give to Anadolu Efes. So I think Sharas won the tactical battle in this game. Also, it was a double game week for Barcelona, so it was kind of difficult for them to prepare for this one. Anadolu Efes only had this single game.
Yeah, and Barca, they were after a COVID outbreak, so that's really hard to come back on the court. We can see how Corey Higgins is still struggling after his injury. Yeah. And
actually, in this game, he had some good runs. This was the best game so far after his injury.
But still, he's way far away from his current normal shape.
But yeah, again, Sertar Shanli against his former teammates, very solid. 13.7 rebounds. Rokas Jokubaitis with deja vu and 1 on Vasa Mizic in the end of the fourth quarter. Really, Rokas Jokubaitis showed some leadership, and it is amazing for me to see a 21-year-old Lithuanian who just came to Barcelona being the guy in the end of the fourth quarter on the court where Corey Higgins, Nikola Mirotic are also playing. I mean, it's amazing.
And it was not only that, and one situation, even before in tough situations where Efes, they were close to Barca at one shot. Yeah. He made a 3-pointer with 6 minutes left to double the lead by 6. Then they were... he made a layup, I think, and he made it +2 for Barca when it was a very close situation. I mean, he scored like 7 or even more very important points in the fourth quarter and in the decisive moments where Barca really needed some leadership. So it's just incredible. We already talked about how we were we were talking about our wrong predictions if Jokubaitis can be as productive for Barcelona as we saw him in Rodriguez, but he's playing even better than last season where he got a lot of playing time just because guys were injured. Now, okay, Calates is injured, but he's scoring almost 11 points. He's dishing out 4 assists per game since Calates was injured, and Barcelona is the top team in the EuroLeague. So that's an incredible achievement for a young guy like Jokubaitis, and he's incredible, not just on the floor, but off the court too. And these personalities...
It's very cool.
That's why kids start falling in love with basketball, because he's so sincere, both on the court and off the court. He has some drawbacks. He must improve his defense because his defense flaws kind of cost the end of the game against Milan. For example, that crucial shot by Delaney was a big hit for Milan. But other than that, he has balls. He has that big heart for just for basketball leadership. So it's incredible.
I mean, he knows himself that he has to improve on defense. He has to improve handling the ball with his right arm. But this season, the numbers, the percentages are crazy. His spot-up shooting is really improved. He's not known for his three-point shooting. We know him for this pull-up mid-range jumper that he has. However, when he is open, he's knocking down shots this season. More than 50% from three-point range, I believe.
Yeah, for example, in this stretch without Calates, he was making 63% of three-point shots.
It's 55.6% this season. He's not shooting a lot, it's 15 from 27. But when he's open, he makes those shots. It's very important for a player in his position. Another thing from this game that I really wanted to mention, talking about coaching and how differently coaches approach actually the same situation, the same circumstances. Ergin Ataman was dealing with Vasa Micic foul trouble. He got 3 fouls early, but still he kept on playing Vasa Micic. In the second quarter, he was playing significant minutes with 3 fouls already. And for example, a different game, CSKA Asvel, Chris Jones gets 3 early fouls, actually 2 personal fouls and a technical, after 5 minutes. And TG Parker doesn't play Chris Jones until the third quarter. So it's a very different approach. How Ergin Ataman trusts Vasa Micic not to get this 4th foul. He trusts his intellect to avoid anything negative, and how TG Parker is, like you said, sticking to the NBA approach. Yeah. If my key player is already in a foul trouble, I'm going to save him until the second half. So that's another interesting thing.
TG was learning from San Antonio coaching staff. He was visiting his brother Tony when he was playing for San Antonio, and he was trying to get all that basketball knowledge from San Antonio guys. And also probably it's the matter of the situation, because without Micic, if Efes, they were failing without him. So that was probably why Ataman also kept him on the court, because he saw that they're in trouble. Because we have to admit that Barca, more or less, they were controlling that game.
Yeah, they were controlling the game. The result didn't show it, though. I mean, it was only 41-40 after 2 quarters, but you had a feeling that Barca are creating better opportunities. Points come easier to them. Anadolu Efes basically were living off the free throw line. And yeah, they couldn't break the game, though. And Ashara said, maybe we could have played a little bit smarter and break the game in the third quarter or early in the fourth. It got down to the last minutes. Credit actually to Chris Singleton, who stepped up in the fourth quarter, making some big buckets. But again, open shots were missed. Bobois was missing shots. Larkin also missed some good opportunities. A couple of 3-pointers, and it could have been a different ball game.
Yeah, some silly turnovers. That's painful, actually. 11 turnovers for Efes and only 9 assists. That's bad.
That only 9 assists, that says a lot, really. This is the team that is known for the ball movement, and having those creators, Larkin and Micic, and only 9 assists. That's a very low number. And actually, about Vasa Micic's foul trouble, it's not the first time he gets himself into this situation. And the third personal foul is kind of silly. You already have 2 fouls, and doing this back screen, I don't remember whether it was on Corey Higgins or Kyle Kuric, but you get the offensive foul. It's a very clear offensive foul. And in this case, Ataman trusted him. He didn't get the 4th. But when you see him playing kind of careless already with 2 fouls on him, it's hard to be 100% safe that he's not going to get the 4th one. And getting 4 fouls in the second quarter practically kills you.
Yeah, listen, we're talking about pretty bad game of Efes, right? Barca, they were controlling the game even though they had a lot of problems. Before, they didn't play Nick Kalaitis, for example. They were after COVID. You see Ataman getting out of control. You see team struggling. Micic taking bad decisions. All the team, they're not sharing the ball. If you were Alper Yilmaz, the GM of Efes, what you would do in this situation? You do some roster shake-up. Of course, there's always a coaching change as an option, but probably this time that's not the case. How you would inspire this team?
I wouldn't do anything, to be honest, this season.
Let's just trust the process.
Let's keep it the way it is this season. A big shakeup needs to be done in the summer to replace a lot of these veteran players. And actually, I must admit, some players are really disappointing me. Elijah Bryant, first of all. Ergin Ataman started Elijah Bryant. He gave him a starting lineup spot for defensive purposes, and he could not defend. His first 2 actions were mistakes. He allowed Higgins to drive. Higgins got hot in the very beginning, so Elijah Bryant ended up playing only 5 minutes. So if Elijah Bryant cannot provide any defense, what can he do for this team? Because offensively, it's Larkins and Micic's team. And, you can see a veteran role player like James Anderson that can actually take this role. He doesn't have the ball in his hands. He barely ever scores, but he can do some good stuff on the court. And Elijah Bryant doesn't do nothing, to be honest.
I remember when Elijah just joined Efes, we were thinking that it might be an upgrade, especially in the situation. It
looked like a good signing at the moment.
Maybe it takes a lot of about confidence he gets when he's playing, when he gets the ball, when he can make decisions. Now he just became some bench guy. And with Larkin and Micic, it seems like he's not finding his rhythm on the offensive end. Maybe it impacts his defensive decisions. In general, now it looks like a bad situation.
But it's the middle of January, and we're past the period when you can register players from other EuroLeague teams. You can only sign free agents from elsewhere.
Yeah, until February 9th.
So I don't think there is an option for Anadolu Efes to sign a game-changing player, or releasing some of the players that they have I don't think it's smart. We're ruling out the question about Ergin Ataman being fired. So you're just going to stick with this until the end of the season, see what happens. They will be in the playoffs. I'm not so sure about the Final Four. And in the summer, you will have to make some moves. They have the budget. The rebuild is not going to be painful. They can sign good players.
It depends. I've heard that it's not that easy because Efes, they are very dependent on one owner, and if he spends, that's okay. But for how many years he's going to spend, especially when the team will be losing, especially if they won't make the Final Four, that's another question. So with Efes and the ownership they have, there's always a lot of uncertainty. What will happen the next year.
It's so hard for a new player to actually find himself in this team. Like Elijah Bryant is one example. Filip Petrushev, like kind of a promising young center. But in this game, he was substituted into the court. He played 8 seconds. He made a mistake. He got a shooting foul, and he was replaced immediately. So for players' confidence, these situations are not really
You remember last
good.
year, Janan Musa, he was just benched in the end of the bench,
Yeah.
and now he's doing great job in ACB, but he just couldn't adjust that team.
But actually, in these games against Barcelona, you start to realize how valuable Sertac Shanli was last season. I mean, his pick and pop is
solid.
You could say it's elite.
Yeah.
Elite combo when he has a good point guard, when he's playing pick and pop. Tibor Pleiss can do some damage, but
defensively
it's kind of difficult.
Yeah.
And Sertac Shanli, at first, when Barcelona signed him, it seemed kind of strange, kind of odd. It's not like he's a young player that still didn't reach his ceiling. He's 29 years old.
Yeah.
So when Barca signed him, you were thinking, why? But now you're kind of starting to realize that it's good for you to have different players in center position, to have Brandon Davis and at the same time to have a different option in Sertac Shanli. Also, of course, they have Pierre Oriola, who's missing games recently, but Sharas knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He signed Laprovitola, for example. He needs to have a floor general like Nick Kalaitis, Rokas Jokubaitis can set the team, but you want to have something different, kind of a spark player, and Nicolas Laprovitola is exactly that.
And not only Sertac adds value for Barcelona, now we're talking about Petrushev, now we're talking about Efes problems, and they're lacking Sertac Shanli, actually.
Definitely.
That's the big piece missing for Efes, and nobody thought that, nobody knew that it will be so important for Efes.
Wrapping up this game, I still want to mention Brian Dunstan dunking on Brandon Davis.
And Davis had a revenge.
Davis had a revenge.
Possession.
Yeah. But Dunstan's dunk was and one, and it was that monster dunk.
Yeah, it was good and one reaction after that dunk. We actually had he actually had and one session with our colleague Martina. Amazing interview. So I highly recommend watching that interview, because in the end of the interview he made his and one impersonation during the conversation. So it was a bit similar what actually happened in Palau Blaugrana. And Brian is actually amazing guy. So he's way different when he's on the court, where we used to see him mean, powerful.
He's the king of blocks.
Yeah, but off the court he's so funny. He's a gamer. He's a family guy. So yeah, just watch that interview. Yeah, about the game against Milan, it was a bit different. Milan killed it in the end, and watching that game, I felt that strange feeling that, you know, when I see Sergio Rodriguez and Malcolm Delaney on Milan's backcourt for years already, sometimes I start thinking if that's the backcourt for the title contender. If you can win the title with such a backcourt, when, you know, El Chacho, he's decreasing, he's aging, and he doesn't have a lot of years left in his tank. And Malcolm Delaney next to him, he's not avoiding injuries, and it's really hard for his team and for himself. But every time I start doubting them, they're killing games like they did in Barcelona. El Chacho, he was killing in the first half. He was just unstoppable, mostly because Barca just let him go right, and when he goes right, he's just a superstar. And I remember when Jasikevičius was doing scouting report, even for Žalgiris, he was always emphasizing that, guys, if he goes right, if you let him go right, he's a superstar. If you let him go left, he's a very average player. But it doesn't happen. It's not that easy just to force him to go left, because he's too smart. He's so smart, and he's changing the direction, and he actually plays the direction he wants. Delaney, he's just amazing. He's just a killer. That's the guy which you need to finish the game. And all these shots, they were very tough shots. And I mean, these two guys, they brought a victory for Milan. El Chacho inspiring the team in the first half, and then Delaney closing the game when it seemed like Barca had it in their pocket. They were plus 10.
So there were no positives in this game for Barcelona.
There were some positives. You know, it was the first game after the COVID. It was hard.
But the coach said there was nothing positive.
But in the press, what was funny with that interview, that there were no positives according to him, but when he went to the press conference, official press conference, he was praising his guys for the spirit, for the fight, and for the quality of basketball they showed. So it was just a bad night for Šarūnas Jasikevičius, and I think that he regretted that interview, because if you noticed,
in Anadolu his game, the interviewer was his best friend.
Yeah.
To me, it seems like when Malcolm Delaney is facing Barcelona, he's on revenge mode. We remember what happened to him in Barca, and I was really frustrated that they let him go. Malcolm Delaney is a franchise player in Europe, in my eyes, and he was good in Barcelona, and he actually was appreciated by the Barca fans. But there were some conflicts, maybe with Coach Pešić at the time, and with the club's management. They eventually let him go.
Probably it was Pešić's decision, because Delaney always declare how much he loves staying in Barca, how much he loves fans, the club.
And then they let him go. In my eyes, he's a very solid and consistent, proven EuroLeague player, and I would love to have him on my roster in any club, any environment. For Milan, it's a great fit. And El Chacho, he's just one of those experienced European veterans that can win you games. As you said, maybe at this age he's not as efficient as he was in the past, but still, in the big games, you trust Sergio Rodriguez to give you 20 good minutes. This is what he did in Palau. Of course, you can say things about Barcelona's defense, letting him go right, letting him take these 3-pointers. When he plays the pick and roll and you allow him to shoot off the screen, he's always going to make those shots. So, Barca suffered. But in the end, I would say that the reaction in the third quarter was good. In my opinion, the way Barcelona came back after the halftime, it was really impressive. After COVID, after injuries, after everything. 26-13,
Okay, yeah.
So there
were a lot of positive
things. They came back to the game. They were kind of close to winning it. Yes, in the end, Milan made better decisions. The experience maybe helped them. But it was not a bad game for Barca, to be honest. It's normal that you lose some games in the EuroLeague. It's what's not normal is that Barca finished with 15 wins and 2 losses, given the circumstances they were facing. So now, maybe you lose some games by a couple of shots, but it's not a problem.
In the end of the game, watching at first El Chacho was dominating, then Delaney was making big shots. As I mentioned, Jokubaitis made some crucial defensive mistakes. I had that feeling that I was lacking a solid perimeter defender or on Barcelona roster, and Dante Exum was not playing in the second half, I think. Higgins is not in his best shape at the moment. They're lacking Brines, but sometimes I'll feel that additional, maybe not the additional, but they're just lacking a good, solid perimeter defender at the current station, no?
So, but if Brines is coming back, he can get in shape before the playoffs, so you will have that defensive presence. Dante Exum, to me, actually, it seems like he has a lot of potential to be a successful player in the EuroLeague, maybe even in Barcelona. But as we know, he has his mindset on the NBA. He said that I signed for 3 months. I'm going to be here. I'm going to enjoy it. But then my plan is to go back to the NBA. I think really that with a good coach, Dante Exum could be a great, successful player in the EuroLeague.
Oh, yeah. It would be a very good piece, actually. Now it's hard for him. His stats are not good. 3.8 points in 17 minutes. His shooting is not amazing. 41% of 2-point shooting. And, he made 2 of 5 3-pointers. But he's good not because of his offensive numbers. He's a good defender. In the EuroLeague, he still needs to get to know his opponents, because sometimes he's doing some silly mistakes when he's playing on-ball defense. And even though Barca is one of the best defensive teams in the EuroLeague, he still needs to understand the system, understand the league he's playing at the moment. And I believe that if he started the season from the beginning, he would be much better and would be more useful. So now it's very tough we already mentioned how tough it is to adjust in teams like Efes. The same is in Barcelona. So it just some people are saying that Exum is a bust. Why he's thinking about the NBA if he's not even performing in Barcelona? But it's different. EuroLeague and Barcelona joining the team during the season is a different thing, and you cannot value and underestimate player just because of these few weeks and months during the season.
But in the NBA's context, he is a bust. Let's be fair.
Yeah, he was a fifth
pick.
Yeah.
And right now he is seen just like Emmanuel Mudiay. NBA rejects that want to get the second chance, want to prove something, now trying in Europe, but still having NBA on their minds. And we see Emmanuel Mudiay chasing 10-day contracts. I think Dante Exum, as an Australia national team important player, is too good to be chasing 10-day contracts and even playing G League basketball maybe. So in my eyes, a guaranteed EuroLeague contract, let's say a 2 or 3 year deal with one of the Spanish clubs, is much better than trying to fulfill your broken NBA dreams. And to be honest, if Dante Exum doesn't have a consistent jump shot, he's not going to be successful in the NBA.
Although he has just, a bit more potential than Moody in the NBA because of his defensive skills.
Yeah, for sure, more than Mudiay, but
I see what you're saying, and I'm really surprised. I thought that when he came back to Europe, when he came to Europe, I thought that he has planned just to finish the season over there, and then started from scratch, in summer, just to check your options. If there are any NBA teams interested in you, maybe you will have something solid on the table from the EuroLeague team. So I was kind of surprised hearing that it's just a short break for him here in Barcelona, and he's still dreaming about the NBA, joining them before the playoffs. So yeah, as you said, he shouldn't be chasing that.
Dante Exum was drafted as a point guard. First of all, he was drafted as a point guard. He was seen as this.
He was considered as a big prospect,
big athletic point guard that can defend, attack, create, basically do everything. Then eventually, Utah Jazz found out that he's not a point guard. He's not going to be a point guard. So now you see him more of a small forward position player, or maybe a shooting guard. But he's not shooting. So this is the whole purpose of being a shooting guard. So when you shift from being a point guard to being a defensive small forward, it shows that maybe something was not okay. Maybe someone was extremely wrong about predicting this player's career and his prospect. So I just hope that Dante Exum finds a place where he can be valued. But I just don't see that being in the NBA. We know that Australian players, they love to go back to Australia, actually, and play in their league. But it's too early for him to do that. He still has a lot of money to earn and a lot of things to win, to be honest.
He should talk with Joe Ingles, Matt Nielsen, all these big-time Australian players who made their name in the EuroLeague.
I just hope that he treats this Barcelona experience as good for him, and maybe he sees EuroLeague basketball as an opportunity.
He should start considering Europe and EuroLeague as option more seriously than that. If we're talking about hard adjustments during the season, the team which made some really solid signings and transfer moves during the season is Real Madrid again. And it's a bit unfair, to sign Yabusele to an extension, to a new 3-year contract, and then you're announcing that Gabriel Deck is coming back. That's just unfair.
Anthony Randolph and Trey Tompkins are back. Now they had a game against Baskonia. It was Tompkins' first game this season. He scored 10 points. Anthony Randolph had a double-double. And Gabriel Deck is coming back. This roster is stacked. It really is unfair.
Although, still, I think that the much needed reinforcement and upgrade is needed for the backcourt. I think that they're missing a solid shooting guard, I would say. A scorer.
JC Carroll.
Who could lift up the
scorer,
team.
A ball handler. Maybe. I don't know. I don't see this as a big issue. Ideally, maybe they could sign somebody in that position, but when you have the opportunity to bring back Gabriel Deck.
No, that's a no-brainer. I'm not even discussing it. But if they are doing they're continuing to do all these unfair things, let's consider signing a good shooting guard for that team.
I mean, their combo guards, let's say, not necessarily pure shooting guards, are good enough for me. You go with Thomas Hurtel, Sergio Yui, Alberto Balde, and Nigel Williams-Goss that has potential and maybe is struggling a little bit in Madrid. I mean, come on, this is very solid. Alberto Balde, for example, recently has been playing good basketball. Not only that he's talented enough to play as a point guard for Pablo Lasso, he's very good on defense. He's one of their better perimeter defenders alongside Jeffrey Taylor. So with this and also young prospects like Carlos Alocen, I wouldn't sign anybody else.
Unless it will be summer, because
in summer
it's gonna be a very interesting summer for Real Madrid because they have a lot of expiring contracts. I think that it includes Sergio Yui, also Rudy Fernandez. I think that Coser is also on an expiring contract. I'm not so sure about Ertel. I think he has a multi-year deal, but anyway, I mean they will make some changes, and I can obviously see. Leo Kobo, if he's not coming back to the NBA, he's desperate about coming back to the NBA. But if he will see that the market is not very polite to him overseas, he should considering staying in Real Madrid.
Real Madrid is the European NBA actually, where you get guaranteed long-term deals and you play for a good coach and
amazing conditions. I mean, a lot of great players from Real Madrid told that is the closest situation to the NBA in the EuroLeague. Real Madrid.
Yeah. So really, they're stacked. I mean, Nigel Williams-Goss, for example, I wouldn't be surprised if they see that he's not fitting in this team. In the summer, he might be talking to his agent and looking for other options, because we can remember Jordan Mickey, when Real Madrid signed Jordan Mickey. He only played one season. After the season, both parts realized that it's better for him to move on, and he moved then to Khimki. So something like this could happen with Williams-Goss, but Real Madrid usually find great players on the market. And what I love about them is that they sign good characters. They're choosing players very carefully. And whether it's a veteran signing or a younger player coming in, they're always signing good guys, good players.
I think Elio Kobo is a good guy, so he would fit them well both on and off the court.
That's a possibility, yeah. Definitely Okobo will step up somewhere from as well next year.
Okay, so probably it's time to go to the second part of our podcast. We were talking about EuroLeague title contenders. Now it's time to talk about EuroCup title contenders. And the main question of this segment of the podcast is if we see Partizan winning the EuroCup.
I see them. I can imagine them winning it, but it's going to be tough.
Would you agree that it will be tougher when we fought before the season? Because, to be honest, I didn't think that there will be such a competition for them. Because not only Virtus, everybody was discussing about Virtus challenging Partizan. We can see a lot of good, interesting teams right now. Of course, we're not so sure how long Buducnost will keep the tempo. We see Gran Canaria overperforming with 6 victories and 2 losses. Buducnost, for example, they're leading the Group B. Badalona, they're surprising with 7 wins in 9 games. Partizan lost to Lokomotiv, and Lokomotiv, they have at least few EuroLeague players with Motley, McCollum, Thompson, I like him as well, Alan Williams. I mean, they're looking for a replacement for Quinn Cooks. I mean, so it's going to be very difficult for them. Way more difficult than I thought.
I never thought it was going to be easy. But I'm looking at some of these teams with good names on the roster. Lokomotiv, one of those examples. They're not playing any defense. They replaced the coach. They brought Branko Maksimovic, Serbian coach.
He's assistant coach. Yeah, he just...
So now he's going to coach the team, at least for now, since they fired Pashutin. But they're not defending. They're just I mean, they're winning games based on their talent and scoring abilities, but I don't see these type of teams winning championships, to be honest. On the other hand, Joventut, the Catalan team, to me, they're very solid and very surprising. They have two great veterans,
Ante
in
Tomic
Ante
and
Tomic
Pau
and Pau Ribas. Ante Tomic still
Crazy.
is probably the best center playing back to the basket at the moment in EuroCup, definitely, and maybe in whole Europe. In EuroLeague, it was difficult for Ante Tomic because he was attacked so much with the pick and rolls. He couldn't last longer in the EuroLeague, but in the EuroCup level, also playing in the Spanish ACB for Joventut, he's very solid. Also, Pau Ribas with his big experience, and they have some younger guys like Brodzianski and others stepping up. So Joventut is a team to watch. I watched some of their games in the Spanish league. They're an exciting team, and they have a great support in their home games in Badalona. So it's actually a historic, legendary club with big history. So it's nice to see them being successful this year.
Yeah, and just to add, Tomic, he will turn 35 in February, and he's averaging 10 points, 5.5 rebounds, almost 4 assists in 20 minutes.
And he's averaging 13 points in the Spanish league.
That's just amazing. He's super efficient on the offensive end.
Yeah, he's still very good. And of course, there's Valencia. They are always a semi-final team at least, and when they're in the EuroCup. This season maybe they had some struggles because a lot of injuries happened, and in the preseason they didn't have enough bodies. They started kind of slow, but Valencia, you can never write them off. The Spanish clubs in the EuroCup, they're always either winning the title or being very close. So this is the competition that Partizan is facing, and also, of course, Bologna.
And the important thing is that, for example, we see Gran Canaria on the top, Joventut also on the top, but the thing is that Joventut, they're also performing really well in the ACB. They're third right now. To compare with Gran Canaria, they're only 11. And sometimes the time comes when all these teams kind of has to decide where they should focus on, because Gran Canaria, they will have to keep up with their results in the ACB league, looking forward to the future. So it's going to be very interesting to see if they will manage to keep up the tempo in the EuroCup, especially with all these trips. Usually they don't have any practices because of these long trips to an island. But with Joventut, I have less doubts if they can continue performing that well.
Although it's not a very deep roster. Joventut, they're not very deep, so they're also dependent on a couple of key guys staying healthy. However, it's a regular season format. This is the first season in the EuroCup where we see this format with 2 groups of 10. 8 teams qualify
from each group.
And when there's playoffs, when there's playoff series, you will definitely go for the teams with better coaching. And in this case, Željko Bradović and Sergio Scariolo are the standout coaches in the EuroCup.
Yeah, and they still need time. We're talking about Virtus. Okay, they're struggling, 6 wins in 9 games, but they didn't have Ekpe Uduk for the season. Actually, he started practicing again. I just saw the tweet today.
Teodosic also got hurt recently.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of players got hurt. Davudo Abbas, they lost him in the beginning of the season. So they're dealing with all these injuries. I mean, Nico Mannion was also struggling with health issues. So they will need time, and all these big teams, they will come on the top when it really matters. Yeah. But the thing is that this knockout format, single game format, it's very bad against all these big teams.
It gives the chance to the underdogs for sure, but still, I mean, Partizan, they're like a growing team. They have a lot of young players and a couple of veteran leaders. I like that they added Matias Lezor. They brought him back to Belgrade. I mean, he's a solid center in EuroCup level.
In
EuroCup level, he's a very solid center.
Yeah, he joined Monaco, if I'm right, last year, and they won the EuroCup later. So that's a huge upgrade because they needed some depth in the front line.
There's definitely still a long way to go. But talking about the EuroCup, I would like to say that actually Lietkabelis, the Lithuanian team, they're surprising me. Mm-hmm. Winning 4 games, and also in the other games where they lost, they were competitive. They were competing always.
All these losses, they were less by 10 points. They lost all these games less by 10 points.
They were competing, even
Partizan,
in Belgrade,
for example.
Even in Belgrade, which was obviously a special game for coach Nenad Čanak. But they beat Juventud at home in Panevėžys. So really, your hometown team is impressing me this year in the EuroCup. I didn't expect them to be this competitive.
Yeah, although there's a lot of there's a long way to go, because we're talking about this impressive team Lietkabelis, and they have 4 wins and 5
losses.
Shares from 6th to 8th seed. So
yeah, but they're definitely going to be in top 8 in Group A. So they will make the playoffs, which is already a good achievement, because when you see this group of teams and you compare Lietkabelis with all of them, you're thinking that they are better than Wrocław Śląsk, but all the other clubs, but even Dolomiti, they have money, they have players, and you could imagine Lietkabelis being in the 9th or 10th spot, but right now they're competing for top 4 even, so that's pretty amazing.
When we're talking about Partizan, and if we're talking about winning the title, I see at least 2 things which they must improve in order to secure the title, let's say, or at least to put them in the best position to win the EuroCup. First of all, I'm still doubting their point guard position. They needed some time. Željko needed some time to see if Jan Madar and Dallas Moore point guard lineup can work. And I'm not so sure about that. Yamadar is just too young, although for me he's a better point guard than Dallas Moore. I'm just liking better decision-making from Dallas Moore standpoint. And the thing is that when we're talking about all these decisive games, and if we're looking for more ways for Partizan to make the EuroLeague, and not only the EuroCup is the way, there's ABA Liga, but they're facing probably one of the best defenses in the EuroLeague, Crvena Zvezda. All these great defenses, they have to be beaten with good floor generals, I think. And the way I saw Dallas Moore playing in some decisive moments, it's not on that level. So I heard that they were on the market. They're on the market to upgrade the backcourt. Not only they made it a good signing for their front line, but that's the thing they need to improve. And it seems like they're also realized that some change might be necessary.
In my opinion, in the EuroCup, any team with Kevin Punter's scoring abilities has a shot at winning it.
No, of course.
And Kevin Punter,
exactly
Kevin Punter is actually very efficient with his mid-range shots this year, but only 25%
signature pull-up jumper.
But only 25% free-point shooting. He can be better. He can even be better. He's averaging 18 points. I can easily see him averaging more than 20.
The best thing about Partizan is that they're already showing a nice defense. They have the third best defensive rating in the EuroCup, but the problem is their offense. The offensive rating is not that bad. They're 6th by defensive rating, but the problem is their 3-point accuracy. They're making only less than 33 3-pointers. That's really bad. Although they have enough good, at least spot-up shooters on that team.
Some players are actually not delivering and disappointing, especially Rodion Kuruc, for example.
Oh, that's a big disappointment. Yeah,
a Latvian prospect. He was in the NBA. I think he was signed to play some good minutes, but he's very...
It's a good stretch for... I think that he's even making more than 1 million euros, and that's crazy.
Damn. Okay, hypothetical scenario. Virtus Bologna, Partizan... Everyone's healthy, best of 3 series.
Oh, best of 3.
Who would you be taking? Everyone's healthy. Well, let's say, for the sake of it, Partizan has the home court advantage.
Damn. I think that Virtus, they have more quality and they have more experience. So I'll go with Virtus.
I would go with Teodosic and Bellinelli, honestly.
I mean, these guys, you have to trust them in decisive moments.
So if the condition is everyone's healthy, I would go with Bologna as well.
Yeah, they're just too good. Not only Bellinelli, Teodosic. I mean, Kevin Hervey.
I want to see. I desperately,
Nicola Mannion.
I desperately want to see Bellinelli in the EuroLeague before he retires. It's a big name. It's a very big name. It's an NBA champion. I believe he won a 3-point contest
in the NBA.
Yeah.
Might be.
So it's a very big name. He played for Coach Popovich for San Antonio Spurs. He had a great career in the NBA. He was always very passionate for the Italian national team. I want to see him in the EuroLeague desperately.
So to beat Virtus in that hypothetical situation, Partizan, they should also improve the level of physicality. If you remember, we watched the game Zvezda against Partizan, and we saw a huge difference between the physicality of both teams. I saw some recent games of Partizan. I still cannot stand watching Alen Smailagic losing a 50-50 ball against Eric McCollum, probably the smallest guy in the EuroCup, or like the same happened with McCollum. I think he grabbed 2 offensive rebounds against Partizan, and all these offensive rebounds, second chance situations, they ended up in some crucial points in the end of the game. So that's another thing which has to be improved. But what I also like about Partizan, that despite all these big signings, big names, Željko is still a good teacher to all these young, unproven Serbian players. I mean, a lot of these names, they're unproven guys, but they're performing. They're making a big impact on their teams. For example, Gregor Glass, he became a very solid piece at the moment. Also, Balza Koprivica, he impressed lately, and he's just doing his job. He's growing his team. The thing with Željko and his teams is that usually they need time. If you remember Fenerbahce, the first year they didn't advance from the top 16, for example. His Juventud experience, Real Madrid experience also, they needed some time. Okay, they won the EuroLeague, but they failed in Spain, for example. So even all these big coaches, they need time because the empire, they're not built in 1 year. And probably when Željko was signed by Partizan, when Panter, Lidej joined Partizan, the level of expectations were so high that everybody thought that this Partizan will destroy everybody. But the reality is that competition in the EuroCup is good. This team still needs time to grow, to adjust to their new coach, to adjust to each other, and it will take time. But a lot of good things already happening in Partizan. I try to talk how's the process, how's the growth of Partizan, and the most important thing is that Željko is happy. Željko is happy working in Belgrade at his home. He already mentioned in the interview that every day, every week, he's getting like 10 lunch requests just to meet some friends in Belgrade, just to have some quality lunchtime, quality conversations. He loves working with these young Serbian players. He loves working for Partizan. And it's really important to have your amazing coach happy in that situation. And also, with Željko, usually everybody around, they improve, they get better. Not only players, but the organization, fans in general. We had all these lessons from Šarūnas Jasikevičius, for example, in Lithuania. The same now is happening in Partizan, because with Željko, there is no bullshit. There's a big focus on improving in all the areas of life, and they're getting there. I'm not so sure of this year, because, as I said, competition is huge in the EuroCup, but they will be really good in years to come if they will manage to keep this Partizan project with Željko on the front.
Just last week, I once again watched the famous 2005 press conference
after
in
Serbia
in Belgrade. Eurobasket has to be the greatest press conference ever by a European basketball coach. Really, I think the American viewers should watch it to realize how different it is. The press conferences, the communication, and everything else about the European coaches. Yeah. But actually, we're finishing about the EuroCup and Partizan. Matthias Lesor could be kind of even an underrated signing.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big presence in the paint, a good pick-and-roll player, and last year when they won the EuroCup with Monaco, he was averaging 12.5 points and 6 rebounds per game. So he adds a lot of quality and power to
experience as well.
Experience as well, yeah. It's a good signing.
So they're really close. But with this format, luck also gets involved.
Yeah.
We'll see. It just makes things even more exciting because there's a lot of unpredictable things in the EuroCup.
To be honest, I never watch a lot of games during the regular season in the EuroCup. I basically start watching it more seriously
from top 16 at least.
From quarterfinals, to be honest. Top 8 is always solid.
That's all.
Yeah,
let's go to the one of the let's go with the fan mailbag, and we have questions from Miroslav. Thanks a lot to you. First of all, the question about Matthias Lezort. What do you think about the new Partizan center?
We kind of answered it. Good signing for EuroCup. Good signing for Partizan. He's been playing in Belgrade already. Of course, he switched sides. He played for Crvena Zvezda. So there's not much to add, really. It's a good center, and he's gonna help a lot this team because he will help when we are. I think Željko is also thinking about Virtus as a potential matchup. So maybe so.
They needed such a body like
and not only Virtus, Crvena Zvezda. You need to match.
Of course,
Kuzmic.
Yeah,
and everybody else that they have. They're a very physical team, so you're adding physicality with Lezort, a good French player, a solid, reliable center. He already played his first game, actually, in the EuroCup for Partizan, so looking forward to seeing him more.
Do you think Buducnost could make a surprise in the EuroCup? I would say that they're already making some kind of a surprise in the EuroCup, leading Group B, and a lot of comes from their head coach, Aleksandar Džikić. He's back in Buducnost, and he's a very respected coach, even in the EuroLeague. I mean, I remember how Šaras was appreciating his knowledge, his skill. He wasn't very successful in the previous years, but so far he's doing a great job. And I like this Buducnost team. They have some good names like Willi Reed. We remember how high he was jumping in the EuroLeague. DJ Sealy, very, very smart guard. He was very valuable player for Bayern Munich. He would be valuable player to this day. So I'm kind of surprised to see him in the EuroCup. Jokubaitis, he was already nice in Panathinaikos. He showed some good stretches.
He was kind of unpredictable.
Yeah, that was the problem because he was a rookie in the EuroLeague. Yeah. But in EuroCup,
they definitely hit the jackpot with the American players, and then you're building a team around them with some hardworking local players, which they successfully did. You could say that their leading scorer, Justin Kops, is actually one of their own. He's been there since 2019. He has a Montenegrin citizenship. So they're a solid team. They're a playoff team. But if we're talking about surprises, I don't see them as a top 4 team in this current EuroCup.
So if they will manage to reach the semifinal,
I would be surprised.
I agree. I didn't consider them that seriously before the season.
Of course, there's Vladimir Mitsov, for example.
Yeah,
with tons of experience. Actually, you could.
We're not so sure about the depth of this team.
You could expect a guy like Mitsov to be even better in the EuroCup because so far he's only scoring 9 points per game with 25.5% 3-point shooting. Mm-hmm. He exploded actually in their last game against Bursaspor. So there's potential, there's experience, there's veterans, there's Coach Džikić, so they can do some good things. It's good for the competition itself. I mean, and for the Adriatic League, Crvena Zvezda and Partizan cannot relax. They cannot sleep on these other teams like Buducnost. They have to be serious about them.
And the last question from Miroslav, maybe it's Miroslav Berić. Don't you think so?
From Žalgiris?
Legendary Miroslav Berić, yeah. No, I'm just joking because Miroslav is doing good. I remember when Žalgiris TV crew interviewed him a few years ago when Žalgiris faced Buducnost in the EuroLeague. He came to the interview, if I'm right, with Ferrari or something. So Berić is doing well. I mean, he's okay with his post-career life. So probably it's not Berić, definitely. But anyway, the last question. Do you see Mario Hezonja as the leader of a stronger team in the EuroLeague?
Well, first of all, I think Unix Kazan, the way they're built right now, they're strong enough. And Hezonja is proving that he can lead the team.
Probably the idea of the question is if you see him as leader in one of the powerhouses of the EuroLeague.
Yes, why not?
Do you see him as a leader in the winning team?
Yeah,
in a title team?
Definitely. But he needs a good coach. I mean, some coaches might not be very successful with Mario Hezonja. He's a little bit arrogant. So if he gets angry, in the past we saw what happened in the Croatian national team. There might be some conflicts, some tensions. So he needs to be in a good environment where other players are also dedicated and motivated, and the coach is fair.
CSKA Moscow, what do you think? Will Clyburn on expiring contract? Mario Hezonja in his situation?
Yeah.
That would be a nice upgrade.
I could see that. He could be a leader, definitely. I mean, this season we're seeing that he's not the player that wants to take 20 shots every single game. He wants to win. There are games when he makes like 2 or 3 field goals, but he's not complaining. Unix Kazan is winning. He is actually an underrated defender. We're always talking about skills, about scoring, about dunking the basketball that he does tremendously. But he's very good on defense also. So any team with the opportunity to take him should do that, and he could be a leader. He could be successful. I don't see any problems. Although, yeah, we're talking about coaches like Itudis and Jasikevičius. For example, with Itudis and Mike James, we remember the conflict. If something like that happens, Mario Hezonja is not the guy that would go down easily, let's say.
Also, we had some doubts when he joined Perasovic crew. Okay, there is a Croatian connection, but still, Perasovic is a very hard coach. So,
I mean, if there wouldn't be any doubts about him, first of all, he would not have arrived in struggling Panathinaikos. He would have landed somewhere better immediately after coming back from Portland. And secondly, in the summer, Unix Kazan, it seemed like a gamble.
Huge gamble.
So maybe Barca, Real Madrid, CSKA, and others were not actually thinking about the possibility of signing him.
Yeah, there was a buyout issue as well, buying out his rights. So maybe, yeah, I think he increased his stock in the EuroLeague for the next summer if he becomes the free agent, because he signed a multi-year deal, and I'm not so sure about his, let's say, +1 option. It's a team option.
I mean, it should depend a lot whether Unix stays in the EuroLeague or not. If they don't stay in the EuroLeague, it would be, I don't know. It would be criminal. It would be criminal, actually, to play Mario Hezonja in the EuroCup.
And a blessing for Kazan to keep him.
Yeah.
Okay, to finish this up, as I mentioned, I tried to check if all the games will be played as planned, and it seems like that we're keeping our fingers crossed, but it seems like we will finally, after a few weeks of suspensions, of postponements, we will have all the games available. So, Rytis, which one is your most anticipated game of the week?
I wanted to say Unix Barca, but now that Nikola Mirotic got COVID and he's not going to play.
Unix also, they had big COVID problems.
We're not sure which players will show up. So
what will be the quality of the game? It will be way different when it was in Barca.
It's questionable, but still I'm looking forward to seeing Isaiah Cannon against the Catalans, so it should be fun. CSKA against Milan, for
a lot
sure.
Of quality.
Yeah, Tudis, Messina coming back to Moscow, where he was extremely successful. A lot of great experienced players. I hope Will Clyburn will be back because he missed both of their games last week. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this one.
And of course, Maccabi Olympiacos. Very, very important. Another important game for Yannis Feropoulos. They're already on an 8-game losing streak.
And Olympiacos also, they need to show a reaction. They need to respond after their last game, which was terrible.
They were terrible, but I'm thinking that maybe it was hugely impacted by COVID also. Because they were just, it wasn't Olympiacos.
I don't know, but you were facing Fenerbahce without Vesely and Dekolo and all their problems.
To play the way they played, actually.
It was the worst game of the season so far.
But I remember I criticized them pretty harshly, but then I thought that, yeah, really, maybe they were just had a hard time coming back after COVID. Maybe that was the reason.
And actually,
I hope so.
You know, Panathinaikos were breaking records against Efes when they played at home. They trashed Efes, the EuroLeague champions, somehow. Daryl Macon, I believe, hit like 9 3-pointers in that game. So Anadolu Efes should have some extra motivation in this one. And it will be interesting to see. Maybe Ataman this time will...
He will keep on the court.
Stay on the touchline.
Because he already tied Andrea Trinchieri for the most ejections during this one season in years, actually, probably since the new format started. So that's a huge challenge for Ataman.
And if you want to see some brutal physical basketball, Asvel is facing Crvena Zvezda.
Dogfight.
Yeah.
A lot of EuroLeague action, a lot of quality EuroLeague action this week. So enjoy this EuroLeague week. Enjoy our podcast, Rytis Vyšniauskas, Donatas Urbonas. You can always find us on all the main audio platforms, wherever it is, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, for example. I mean, all the main platforms. And of course, YouTube channel, BasketNews.com YouTube channel, and BasketNews.com website. So thank you so much, and good luck this week.
Good luck. See you next week.